Welcome to the deep dive. Marilyn Monroe. I mean, her image is just so iconic, isn't it? Almost everyone recognizes her. But what happens when we actually, take a stack of academic texts, biographies, articles, and really try to peel back the layers behind that face? That's what we're doing today.
Exactly. Our mission here is to give you a real shortcut to understanding this, pivotal figure in cultural history.
Yeah.
We're going to unpack how Marilyn Monroe's image was very carefully constructed, the powerful forces shaping her career, and the claims of exploitation that tragically surrounded her life and work. We really want to get past the surface to some deeper truths, maybe deliver some real aha moments for you.
Right. And just to sort of set the scene, let's touch briefly on her early career. Our sources point out she got her first top billing in 1953 with Niagara. She played Rose, this scheming character. But even before that, in Don't Bother to Knock from 52, she was apparently already getting a reputation for insecurity. So these early roles, right from the get-go, they started shaping how the public saw her. So Niagara, it wasn't just another film, was it? Our sources really show this was the moment the public started seeing that Marilyn persona really solidify in a starring role. Time magazine, way back in 1953, they actually noted that Niagara positioned her primarily as a sex symbol. They even specifically mentioned her being cast as a saloon singer.
hmm And what Niagara shows us, it isn't just about her becoming a sex symbol. It gives us this powerful early insight. Hollywood was simultaneously building her image up and, constraining it. They eroticized her, absolutely, but then, quite strikingly, the film punishes her character for her actions. There's this contradiction, and it was embedded right there in her earliest big roles. They even used the song Kiss as a key plot device for communication and for, planning a murder. It's just a prime example of how the film itself was actively crafting this very specific and often contradictory public persona.
Yeah, it's really striking how little agency she seemed to have, even as her star was clearly rising. When we look at films like Don't Bother to Knock from 52, our sources hammer home her minimal creative control. Like she barely had any say in casting or even ad-libbing lines.
Yeah.
How did that lack of control play out day to day? And what was the bigger picture, for how celebrity images were managed in post-war Hollywood?
That's such a crucial point. Our sources reveal her celebrity image, particularly in that post-war American culture, was meticulously publicized as an erotic female object. It was a persona crafted to embody this tricky duality, both pure femininity and what society then considered immoral female sexuality. During those early star years, say 52 to 54 under 20th Century Fox, the industry positioned her as a sex symbol who, maybe challenged some norms, but, and this is key, she didn't fundamentally dismantle the patriarchal ideology, that underlying system of male dominance in society. In fact, some critics, looking back, even suggest her performances subtly exposed those systems, showing how they commodified and circulated her image.
And speaking of how her image was crafted and circulated, there's that foundational moment, right? Often cited as the very beginning of that public persona. It harks back to that controversial photo shoot in May 1949 with Tom Kelley. She apparently got just $50 for it.
Just $50. And the impact of those photos was, immense. They were later used, anonymously at first, on a 1952 calendar called Miss Golden Dreams. And they're widely discussed when people try to understand the very origins of her public image, which very quickly just became synonymous with sex. And if you zoom out, the intense media focus after her death in '62 also fueled her popularity in pop art. Artists frequently use those instantly recognizable images. It really underscores how her image became something consumed on this massive scale.
It's so clear that studio executives, the producers, they played such a huge role in shaping her entire career path. Our sources detail how they'd sometimes stall her momentum, leaving her feeling really uncertain about how to move on from the role she was being given.
Oh, absolutely. It makes you ponder the immense pressure she must have been under. Our sources describe her feeling completely owned by the studio system, trapped in what they call an abusive environment, one that constantly thwarted her own aspirations or desire for some creative autonomy. There's even a really powerful claim from these sources that the system raped her over and over again just by overpowering her with demands. That's a stark metaphor, obviously, but it speaks to the absolute control she faced. And that context makes her acts of rebellion, like going off to study acting in New York City, seem even more significant. Yet despite all that control, her actual performances often revealed what scholars call an embodied female subject, meaning she found ways somehow to infuse her roles with a raw, authentic female experience. This self-awareness, the irony, the contradictions, it often made female audiences feel a really strong connection, a sympathy.
Yeah. And as we sort of unpack these systemic pressures she faced, it also, it compels us to address a deeply painful and frankly, pervasive theme in her story: the claims of personal sexual exploitation.
Hmm. It's unavoidable when you look closely. Biographies, scholarly articles, they frequently discuss sexual abuse as a factor potentially linked to um, maladaptive behaviors later in her life.
Hmm.
Things like drug abuse, sexual promiscuity. There's even a specific account from sources suggesting Norma Jean, that was her birth name, of course, was raped by a neighbor when she was just 13 years old. So there's a narrative of Monroe as a victim of the industry, of the broader culture, but also of her personal history of abuse and psychological scarring. It's a recurring theme you just can't ignore. Some feminist interpretations, for instance, they viewed her as a kind of blonde goddess victim, reflecting how women generally were bound by patriarchal gender relations at the time. And you see echoes of this in modern works, too. The film Blonde by Andrew Dominic, for example, it explores these forms of, well, torture and exploitation from a feminist psychology perspective, really digging into her struggles.
So, after going through all this, what does it all mean for us looking back? We've unpacked this meticulously manufactured image, the very real limits on her agency, these profound claims of exploitation, both personal and systemic. Her cultural impact is just undeniable, right? But understanding her story, it really offers crucial insights into the broader dynamics of celebrity, of power. She was, it seems, a woman caught in a system that both created her and ultimately consumed her. It leaves us with a much, much more complex picture than just the iconic surface suggests.
Indeed. And it leaves us with a really thought-provoking question, especially today, in an era where we talk a lot about a public figure's right of publicity, their legal control over the commercial use of their name and image, trying to prevent exploitation. What does Marilyn Monroe's legacy tell us? What does it tell us about that long-term struggle for personal autonomy against huge institutional power? And also, how do we navigate the ethical dilemma of analyzing a figure whose image was so intensely commodified without somehow inadvertently perpetuating that very exploitation? It's a profound question, I think, and one that continues to resonate.